I was doing late-night deliveries on a Friday, the kind of shift where the orders come in slow but steady. Around midnight, I got a request from an apartment complex I'd never been to before. It was on the edge of town, kind of tucked away, with a lot of long, winding roads that didn't show up clearly on GPS. When I pulled in, I noticed the buildings all looked the same: dark red brick, narrow windows, barely any lights on. My GPS said I had arrived, but it didn't tell me which building number was which. I stopped the car and double-checked the app. That's when I got a message from the customer. They said, "You're close. Just park and bring it around to the side door by the laundry room. I'll meet you there." It felt a little odd. Normally people just have you drop it at their door or buzz them in. But I figured maybe they didn't want to wake up roommates or family. I parked by the side of the building and grabbed the food. There was a door, like they described, but it didn't look like a normal apartment entrance. It was a heavy brown metal door with a faded sign above it that just said, "Maintenance." No windows, no buzzer, nothing. As I walked up to it, my phone buzzed again. The message just said, "It's unlocked. Just come inside." That was weird. Most apartments don't want random delivery people walking into restricted doors. But against my better judgment, I pushed it open. Inside, the hallway was dim, with a few overhead fluorescent lights flickering. The floor was concrete, and the walls were painted a dull gray. Definitely not the inside of an apartment complex. More like a storage or maintenance area. I stood there holding the bag, expecting someone to walk up, but nobody came. I texted the customer, "Hey, I'm inside. Where should I drop this off?" Almost immediately, I heard the sound of footsteps echoing from further down the hallway. Slow, deliberate, like someone walking in heavy boots. Then I got a reply on my phone. Just one word, "Closer." My stomach dropped. I turned back to the door, but when I tried the handle, it didn't budge. It was locked. I hadn't heard it close behind me, but somehow it was sealed shut. Panic started to set in. I pounded on the door, trying to force it open, but it wouldn't move. The footsteps were getting closer. I dropped the food bag and bolted down the hallway, hoping to find another way out. The further I went, the darker it got. The lights were spaced further apart, and the air smelled musty, like the place hadn't been used in years. I passed by a few doors on either side, some slightly open, others shut tight. I didn't dare look inside. The footsteps behind me sped up. Whoever it was, they were coming fast. At the very end of the hallway, I saw another metal door. I pushed through it and found myself in another corridor. This one narrower and lined with empty shelves, like some kind of storage area. I was breathing hard now, trying to stay quiet, when I heard the door behind me creak open. The footsteps entered the hallway. I ducked into a side room and crouched behind a shelf. I could hear the person's breathing now, low, heavy, almost like a growl between breaths. They stopped right outside the room I was hiding in. For a long moment, all I could hear was silence. Then, slowly, the door to the room began to creak open. That was it. I couldn't wait around any longer. I sprinted out the opposite side, through another door that led back into the night air. I didn't look back. I ran straight to my car, jumped in, and floored it out of the parking lot. Later, when I called the number from the order, it was disconnected. I checked the app, but the order had already disappeared, like it had never been placed. I found out later from another driver in a local Facebook group that the building I had gone into wasn't even in use anymore. Supposedly, it had been shut down years ago, condemned after a fire in one of the units. So who locked me inside that night? Who was waiting for me in those halls? I don't know, but I haven't done late-night deliveries in that area since. I used to work for DoorDash back when I was in college. It wasn't my dream job or anything, but it paid just enough for rent, gas, and a little bit of spending money. Most nights were simple. Pick up the food, drop it off, smile, and move on. But every now and then, you'd get an order that felt different. And there's one delivery in particular that I'll never forget. It was a Tuesday night, sometime after 10:30. Usually, by then, the orders started slowing down. Most people had already gotten dinner, and I'd just be wrapping up, maybe picking up 1 or 2 late-night snacks before calling it quits. But that night, I got a request from a neighborhood I didn't recognize. The map showed it was way outside the city limits, past where the paved streets ended. I almost declined it, honestly, but the payout caught my attention. It was unusually high for the distance. I figured maybe it was some rich family out in the country who didn't want to cook. So I accepted. I followed the GPS out of the city and down a long stretch of road lined with nothing but trees. It was one of those places where the streetlights just stop, and suddenly you're driving in almost total darkness with only your headlights guiding the way. No houses, no businesses, just thick woods swallowing up both sides of the road. The directions eventually told me to turn down a dirt path. It wasn't paved, just a narrow road wide enough for a single car, the kind that makes you wonder if you're really supposed to be driving down it. My tires crunched on loose gravel as I inched forward, and my headlights bounced off tree trunks that seemed to crowd closer and closer the deeper I went. I couldn't shake the feeling that if my car broke down out there, nobody would ever find me. After what felt like forever, the dirt road opened up into a clearing. At the center of it sat an old farmhouse. It looked like something straight out of a horror movie. 2 stories tall, but the wood siding was aged and peeling. The porch was wide but sagging, and one of the shutters upstairs was hanging off by a single hinge. The only light came from a bulb above the front porch, which flickered weakly every few seconds. The rest of the house was dark. No glowing windows, no movement inside, just silence. I double-checked the order. It was a big one, enough food for at least 3 or 4 people. Paid online. The note said, "Please knock. Don't leave on the porch." That line gave me pause. Usually, people either want you to hand the food over, or they'll just tell you to leave it outside. Asking me to knock but not leave it? That was unusual. Still, I told myself not to overthink it. I got out of the car, grabbed the bags, and started walking up the creaking steps of the porch. Each board groaned under my weight. The house felt heavy, like it had been standing there forever, watching me approach. I knocked on the door, 3 quick raps that echoed unnaturally loud in the silence. And then, nothing. I waited. 10 seconds. 20. No answer. I knocked again, louder this time. Still nothing. That's when I pulled out my phone to call. But the number on the order wasn't a normal one. It just came up as unavailable. DoorDash sometimes hides numbers for privacy, so I didn't think too much of it. But I couldn't reach whoever placed the order. As I stood there, unsure of what to do, I heard something. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate footsteps. They were coming from above me, upstairs. I tilted my head back and looked up at the dark windows on the 2nd floor. For a moment, nothing. Then one of the blinds shifted, just slightly, as if someone had been standing there, watching. My heart picked up. I called out, "DoorDash." No response. Silence pressed in around me, and then my phone buzzed. I looked down and saw a message pop up in the DoorDash in-app chat. It was from the customer. The message read, "Doors open. Come inside." I froze. That's not a normal request. Sure, once in a while a customer might ask you to set food inside the door if they're disabled or something. But this didn't feel like that. The house was dark. The upstairs window had moved. And now they wanted me to just walk inside? I stood there debating, clutching the food. My instincts screamed at me to leave, but something in my head said maybe it was fine. Maybe they were just shy. Maybe they didn't want to open the door because of COVID paranoia or whatever. I took one slow step forward, when suddenly, the door latch clicked. I watched as the knob turned from the inside. The door creaked open an inch, then another. It revealed nothing but pitch-black darkness beyond the threshold. And then another message buzzed onto my phone. "Hurry, before they see you." That was it for me. I dropped the food bag right there on the porch and bolted back to my car. As I slid behind the wheel, slamming the lock button down, I glanced up at the rearview mirror, and that's when I saw them. 2 figures stepping out from the trees on the far side of the house. They weren't coming from inside. They had been waiting outside, in the woods the entire time. They moved slowly, deliberately, like they weren't even trying to hide the fact that they were watching me. I floored it. Gravel sprayed behind my tires as I tore out of the clearing, down that narrow dirt path, branches scraping the sides of my car. My heart pounded so loud I couldn't hear anything else. I didn't stop until I hit the main road again, where the streetlights finally returned. I pulled over, shaking, and opened the app to report the order. But of course, there wasn't much they could do. The account had been made under a fake name with a prepaid card. The address didn't match any registered property. It wasn't even supposed to be on the app. To this day, I don't know what would have happened if I'd gone inside that house, or if I'd hesitated a few seconds longer before running back to my car. All I know is I never took another delivery that far out again.